Today we're looking at the second of the MySQL connector / net objects, namely the MySqlCommand object. The previous object we looked at was MySQLConnection, which allows you to make a connection to a MySQL database from a C# program. And this one allows you to actually do something useful with that connection. In other words, do a query or read table information and things like that. And the steps required in order to use this are: first, you need to create a connection string based on the server, database, user ID, and password information, which we showed in the previous video. Then you need to create the MySQL connection object based on that connection string. Then you need to create a SQL string that is the SQL command that you're going to pass to MySQL via the MySQL connector / net object. And then you need to open the connection with the MySQL.open method. And then you need to create the MySQL command object based on the SQL string. That's the MySQL native command, and also on the MySQL connection object. And finally, you need to execute the MySQL command now that everything's been set up. And the execution is via one of three methods. You can use execute reader, execute non-query, or execute scalar. And the method we're using in this video is execute scalar, which returns one value. And it returns one value because of the nature of the SQL command you're passing to the command object, MySQL command object, which by its nature returns only one value. So if we look at the actual code, I have a string defined at the top of the program called connection string, and it's in the format string connection string equals, and then you have server equals localhost, because we're using the localhost MySQL database. Database equals test, which is the name of a database we've created in our local server. UID equals Doug, which is a user that's been created in this database, and password equals the password. Of course, you put the actual password in the connection string in order to have security access to the data. And then we need to create the MySQL connection object, which we have a MySQL connection also defined at the top of the program off screen. And we pass the connection string to the constructor of the MySQL connection object in order to establish the actual link. And then we open that connection with the connection.open command. And here's the SQL string, which just says select version, which is a legitimate MySQL command that returns the version of MySQL you're using. And then we create our MySQL command object, MySqlCMD, which is the command object, equals new MySQL command, and pass it first the SQL command that we created, namely the select version, and then the connection object that we've created, the MySQL connection that's defined above with the connection string. And then we execute the command, which is the first real activity that we're doing, with the execute scalar. So we have MySQL command object dot execute scalar, and it returns one object, which we have object res here for result. And then I convert this result to a string, and we format the string as saying MySQL version, and then the parameter of the version, which is the string translation of the returned object, and show this message in a message box.show. And if there's an error, we do all this within a try catch. And if there's an error, we catch the MySQL exception in a variable called EX, and then pop up a message box that says .show an error and the error message with the EX dot to string. And finally we close the connection with a connection dot close, since it finally always gets executed whether the try or the catch is involved. And one of the first things we need to do is go down and start our server. So I click on our MySQL server and say yes, start it, and you'll notice that it initially is red, then it goes to orange sort of, and then green. So we now have the WAMP server running. The Windows, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So now if we compile and run this program, you see it pops up a message box that says MySQL version 5.5.20, and you say OK, and then it pops up the form. So both the MySQL connection and the MySqlCommand objects are working correctly. And in the following videos we'll actually start to access tables and do useful database activities with these objects, and a couple other objects we're going to add. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe.